Welcome to Ration Review. Today I got Dr. Carolyn Borisenko. I hope I didn't butcher her name, but she goes undercover to see what's going on with the left and the communists and socialists and all that sort of stuff. So let's get into it. Make sure to like and subscribe. Here is the crazy.
Introduce our first speaker tonight, Satya, who's a nurse and a PSL organizer based in Atlanta.
A foundational step in the socialist reconstruction of society would be the creation of a new constitution. The current U.S. Constitution was drafted by the U.S. slave-owning class, and it enshrines the rights of capital. But the new constitution would enshrine and expand the rights of the working class. And millions of people will participate in constitutional conventions or popular constituent assemblies to draft and adopt the
You want to abolish the Constitution because it upholds capitalism. Okay.
this new constitution, unleashing a creative and collective process, which is far more democratic and participatory than our current system.
How are you going to get millions of people to all come together and agree on a whole new Constitution? That just sounds like a nightmare. That's a logistics nightmare.
Those of us who were long denied a voice in the political system would shape the new constitution. And the US Constitution leaves fundamental matters such as food, health, education, housing to the capitalist market, meaning in the hands of the billionaires, the Wall Street bankers, and the landlords.
Abolishing capitalism means overthrowing the government. Yes, that is what she's talking about.
But these would be guaranteed rights in a socialist constitution.
Wait, guaranteed rights. So if you're guaranteed all the necessities to live life, how are you going to get people to work? Because if I have to choose, if I have everything paid for, I have my TV, I have my, house to live in, I got food on the table, I got my car, I got everything I need, and I could just go do my own thing. Why am I going to go to work to hold up the system?
All the big corporations, the 500 biggest companies that produce 2/3 of this country's GDP would be brought under people's control. They would be nationalized. The new socialist government will take possession of all the existing capitalist banks and create one people's development bank. In a socialist government, holding elected office of any legislative body would not be a full-time job. There would be no professional politicians. Government and civil servants will earn the salary of a skilled worker.
So I don't know what she means by skilled worker, but I do agree with the first part of it. I agree with the first part that even with the Constitution we have, I don't think we should have any politicians that's their full-time job, except for maybe like the president. And all the other ones, it's like, no, that shouldn't be your full-time job. That should be like a part-time job, and you shouldn't be getting paid as much as you do. You should be doing it because you want to make a difference.
And lifetime judicial appointments will be dissolved. The Electoral College would be abolished. The popular vote, one person, one vote, would be implemented.
Now, see, I like the idea of no career politicians. We've had way too many of those. But one person, one vote, that's just crazy talk. So if everybody votes and decides murder is legal, if we just have, say it was, 51% and 50% on the other side, and 51% say, yeah, murder's legal, this is legal, that's legal, then it's legal? I don't know. It just sounds a little crazy.
And mass organizations like unions, tenant organizations, cooperatives, youth groups will be empowered and be given legal recognition. So using centralism and a widening and grassroots democracy, people who have been neglected and left out will be brought into the decision-making process of the new government.
So unions at the center of the socialist utopia. Yeah, she said they would be given power. So if you have power over the system, what is there to make sure that you don't abuse it?
More than 80% of the US population lives in urban centers, but urban populations are widely underrepresented in federal and state bodies, and this would change. The House of Representatives could be replaced with the National People's Assembly that would not only be made up of delegates elected from local election districts, but would also include delegates from the many mass organizations of millions of workers, students, and more. And the Senate could be replaced by the Assembly of Oppressed Nations to correct the historic injustices imposed on the indigenous peoples and the nation and the Black nation.
Wow, that is just insane. But if you have one person, one vote, what if everybody's like, forget them, we don't care? And it goes against what you're saying. So are you going to go to the people in power and say, hey, we put you in power, we need to make this happen? I don't know. It's just crazy.
This Assembly of Oppressed Nations will consist of delegates from oppressed nationalities and peoples. And one of the biggest misconceptions about a socialist government is seeing it as a service provider and the people as passive recipients of services. This is false and wrong. The reorganization of society, including the transition of society to green technology and renewable energy, will be carried out by the people themselves. Mass organization.
So what about all the people that want oil? And are like, forget that, we want oil. And you're just going to stop them, even if it's 60% democracy, right?
Organizations will have a central role in a socialist society. These voluntary-based organizations will be involved in the day-to-day management of the affairs of society. In that sense, the executive power of socialist society is in the hands of the people. We carry out the decisions that we make. Real democracy requires the full participation of the people in making and implementing the decisions.
And let me guess, she wants to be in charge of one of those places.
Capitalist democracy is limited to voting at the ballot box every 2 to 4 years for the next representative of the capitalist system. But socialism expands democracy to the participation of millions of workers, youth, all sectors in actually running society. And socialist revolutions over the last century took place in countries that had to overcome colonial underdevelopment or societies that were in the early stages of capitalist development. But today, the US is an advanced capitalist economy. So the material conditions exist already in the US to transition immediately to socialism.
Next, I'm going to introduce our second speaker of the day, which is going to be Natalie.
Oh
Natalie is a Central Committee member of the PSL and the Vice President of Substitutes with UESF, the United Educators of San Francisco. So give a warm welcome to Natalie.
Wow. This person is teaching children and controlling people. They're teaching children and seeing our children every day.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be with you this evening. I'm so excited to be talking about socialism at this particular moment in our history, and also in the labor movement itself.
So also, when she's brings that, it always gets me whenever I hear people talking about socialism. It's like people don't understand that. It's like, yeah, the concept, the idea, it sounds like a utopia. It sounds like a wonderful utopia, but it's not. When you dig into it, you see that it actually isolates the people it's meant to protect and gives power to just a few people.
I'm here in Denver getting ready for the National Education Association Representative Assembly. Socialism experiences an exciting expansion of its popularity. And as we think about what we're fighting for, it's very, very, very important for us to think about how we will win socialism. Because we are fighting for a vision of a different society, armed with an analysis of the current one, of the capitalist system, with its contradictions, its inherent exploitation and oppression. And we have a collective commitment to replacing it. We cannot be satisfied with a reform status quo. It will require a massive movement for socialism and the adoption of socialist ideas across the country to win a new system, which is why the popularity in increasing is so exciting. But our rich history of struggle also shows that the capitalist system itself will adapt and adopt new methods to survive, and will never concede to fully not be exploitative or oppressive. A revolution is necessary. It is necessary to replace capitalism with a socialist society. And we must build the movements that are necessary in order to do that. And I think those of us who are social.
She says necessary. Carolyn's over here like, I know that she doesn't mean, I know she's not agreeing, but it sure sounded like she was.
Socialists have an important role to play, like we did in history, in how, in all of the different places that we're in all of our workplaces and our neighborhoods, our schools, wherever we are, that we can contribute to the expansion of the struggle and that we can play a role.
Can socialism and democracy coexist? What is the difference between revolutionary socialism that the PSL supports and what is frequently called democratic socialism? So I think we started to touch on these questions, but I want to hear from our panelists. What are your thoughts?
So when we say a revolution, what does that actually mean? So revolution is a process that's smashing the old state and it's creating a new state. And, in the history of the US, there was the first Reconstruction, happened after the Civil War, which was actually a social revolution because it transformed property relations inside the US. It ended slavery. And then comes the second Reconstruction, which is the Civil Rights era, which was a political revolution because it tore down the structures of apartheid, but the economic system still remains in place. So we have an unfinished revolutionary process in this country.
Oh, I forgot to tell everyone, Carolyn is actually a mute. She never speaks. She can't speak. The Constitution of the government upholds private property ownership. Yes, it does. And it would suck that my parents finally owning a home and there actually being some sort of value or wealth that's going to be passed down to my parents' children, that it would just be taken away. That's, that's just crazy. What if you don't have enough homes too? Are you going to make people have roommates?
And so there is a need for a third Reconstruction, which we are arguing has to be a socialist Reconstruction, which will actually have to change property relations and the economic foundations from capitalism to a socialist foundation.
In differentiating democratic socialism from revolutionary socialism, which Satya has done, there is also, I think it's very important for us to recognize the possibility and necessity, so the actuality of having a revolution in the United States. And I think that it is, it can be very, very hard for us when we're living in a society that is, so deeply challenged in so many ways. There's so many contradictions, millions and millions of workers voting for someone like Trump, who is, a wealthy Nepo baby. I mean, like who has appealed to sort of the most basis and disgusting racism and sexism in our society in order to win over a section of workers to vote against their interests. I think it can be hard to sort of see through that and think, well, will we ever be able to have a revolution in the United States? And I do think revolutionary socialists, our answer is yes. And that is a differentiation. I have been active in my union since I became an educator in 2007. I think, I do now serve as an officer of our union and consider myself to be part of a labor movement that has been doing a lot of great work and also needs to do a lot more. And I think that it's on us as socialists and as communists, as revolutionaries, to be deeply involved in what, workers organizing in the workplace. And for us as educators, we're not at the point of production, but we have a political role to play right now in the struggle for democracy, the struggle to defend public education, and to, I think, be part and parcel of those struggles as we seek to build a consciousness that goes beyond the consciousness of the union, the consciousness of our class, and rightly understanding who the bosses are and how they operate in society, but towards socialist consciousness. And I think that's a very important task right now.
Wow. That's just insane. Absolutely insane. Socialism, democracy, pure democracy, pure democracy. Oh my God. And then how often would you have to have votes too? Would you vote on whether you vote? Would you, it's like, oh, we voted on that last week. Okay, but there's a group of us that say we should vote again. It's just, I don't know. They don't, it just seems crazy. But I will give them the fact that socialism, when you first hear about it, does sound like some beautiful utopia. Thanks for coming. Like, subscribe, and I will see y'all next time.